Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Greater Good podcast supported by the San Diego Harbor Police Foundation. With me today is the famous, or is it infamous, Fernando Hernandez, principal extraordinaire from Perkins K-8 school in the Barrio Logan. Hi, Fernando. How are you today?
Hi, good afternoon, Jeff. I'm doing very well, thank you. How are you doing today?
Thanks for asking. I've had a good day so far. I got to be on the Brett Davis show this morning where we interviewed a school teacher from La Mesa and his brother and talked about NFL and other stuff that I don't really care about. But they're laughing because it's true. I don't. I'm not a football person. I'm not even a team sport person. I like individual sports. But anyway, Fernando, I'm just really happy to have you here today because my show, the Greater Good, which we started, what, Sarah, a year ago, just really focuses on people that, in my personal opinion, do so much more than just write a check or support an organization or whatever. I mean, they are feet on the ground, boots on the ground, hands in the middle of stuff, getting the job done passionately, and you personify that. I mean, I've watched you for the last couple of years since we adopted your school back in 2019, and I'm just thrilled that you're here.
Thank you so much, Jeff. It's been a journey. There's a lot that goes on working at a school, and especially during the pandemic, it's much more challenging. But knowing you and knowing that you and your organization support our community deeply, it's very reassuring, and especially in these times, in these difficult times. So thank you, Jeff.
Oh well, I've said this many times to you. I mean, I get so much more than what we're able to give personally. Just my association with you and the children. Oh my gosh, they are such a blast. I mean, I know that they struggle, and especially in the demographic where Perkins K-8's located, with food insecurity and homelessness and all of those other things that are deep down real big social economic issues. But when I'm on campus and those kids, they run up and they hug my leg or they high five me or whatever, and they're so respectful and they always thank us for things, and they're just filled with gratitude.
That is so reassuring because that is one of the things that we are pushing very strongly school wide.
Mhm.
It's the teaching of social skills, social behaviors,
Yeah.
such as gratitude. We've been teaching gratitude for the last couple of years and we've been hitting it hard. We've been teaching students how to shake hands, make
Yeah.
eye contact when you greet somebody, say kind words. We've been giving awards for kindness, for introducing themselves appropriately, greeting new visitors to our campus. All of those things are more essential now than ever before. And we find that where in the past these things might have been taught in the home, in our community, it's been much more challenging. Yeah, we're teaching all of these skills. And when you tell me that when you come on campus, the kids are polite and they express gratitude, that's a huge victory. It's a huge victory for us. It means that our the things we're focusing on are working.
Yeah, and I'm pretty good at reading people, and you know full well that when a young child, third, fourth, fifth grade or whatever, eighth grader comes up to you and they're polite and respectful, but then they also are willing to banter a little bit. They're comfortable in their skin, which is, oh my gosh, that is the ultimate goal in life, is to like yourself, and it's very difficult to not like yourself and then be relaxed. So in my mind, that's really meaningful, and plus it's fun. They're so quick-witted, and they have connection to stuff that I don't know anything about, because I'm so much older. And but yeah, it's really great. Even just meeting, all of your teachers. I mean, your staff, the front office people are always so delightful and warm and welcoming. And with our officers, our police officers, when they come on campus, they tell me they absolutely love going to Perkins. And they do it on their own time. It's they volunteer to do that. But yeah, your teachers. Well, like the other day when we had our Christmas pizza party, I mean, what a blast that was. I got to meet so many more of your teachers that I haven't met before, but the kids, yeah, just a simple thing like bringing them a slice or two of pizza was a big deal.
It was a huge deal. It was a huge celebration.
Yeah,
And thank you for mentioning that about the teachers, because we've also worked a lot on customer service, making sure that everyone that walks into the office walks away with the feeling that they've been treated magnificently well, with
yeah,
dignity. Everyone deserves to be treated very nicely. So we work on that.
yeah, yeah. So I've heard from a number of your teachers about how long they've worked at Perkins. I mean, even longer than you, and that's pretty hard to beat. I met one woman last month when we were installing the adaptive learning equipment, and she told me that she was retiring this year, and she'd been there for, I think she said, 30 years. Is that is that right?
There's a couple of teachers. Yeah, there's Gloria Andrade. She's
Yeah,
been there
that
a
was
little
it.
bit longer than I have. Was that her?
Yeah, that was her.
Yeah,
Yeah,
she's been there for quite a while, for a long time, and she is planning on retiring this year.
yeah. But she told me she wanted to come back and do volunteer stuff. I mean, what's the draw? What is it that's at Perkins K8? You're in the middle of the cement industrial area with trucks and train track noise and buses and all kinds of industrial stuff. I mean, uh, pretty much pardon me, but it's kind of a bleak environment. It's pretty,
It is.
yeah,
It is.
um,
Our kids don't have a green, grassy field to run on.
yeah,
It's all asphalt. You're right. It's kind of it's a pretty brutal, severe architecture, and
right,
we've tried to enhance it by letting artists come and paint
mhm,
murals all around the school to
yeah,
beautify it,
yeah,
make it a much more inviting environment. I think the most important thing is that the school needs to feel like we're a family. I mean, I
mhm,
work a lot on that. In order for teachers to do their job well, they need to feel validated. I mean, no matter where you go to work, one of the things that I ask teachers is, when you're driving to work Monday morning, how are you feeling? Are you feeling dread, like in your stomach? Are you feel like, oh, I don't want to go to work?
yeah,
Or,
yeah,
hey, this is incredible. I'm so happy to be working at Perkins. If I don't hear enthusiasm in the responses, then I've got to do something about it. Because
mm,
if they're not feeling welcomed, if they're not feeling a positive energy coming on campus, it's
right,
going to trickle down in the classroom to the students, the parents, and the community.
yeah,
So it's on me and it's on all of us to create a wonderful and a wonderful family-like environment so that everyone feels validated, loved. And I don't mean to use that word lightly, the word loved, but more so in this day and age because we're all so disconnected from one another,
mhm,
especially our students. So many of our students come from single family households,
right,
and their parents are doing their best to make ends meet. They're working maybe two part-time jobs in the evening. Our kids go home. There's no one home to help them with their homework or to help them, make meaning of life, or to go home and they feel this strong bond, this strong family connection.
right,
So that's one of the things we have to provide at school, a wonderful learning environment. And a learning environment is not just academic, there's a feeling. If you walk into any classroom, you should be able within the first few seconds, you either feel well, it feels positive. You walk into a classroom, it should feel good. There's some places that you walk around, maybe family members or friends, as soon as you step into their living room, you might not feel. I mean, there's a feeling. It's an intangible feeling, and we work on that at school because
yeah,
teachers give so much of themselves, and I've got to make sure that they feel loved. appreciated and supported for the
Yeah.
magnificent work they do every day for our kids. It all trickles down.
So that's the secret. That's the secret sauce to Perkins K-8's teachers' willingness to stay working there for decades.
Yeah, yeah, and it is a very challenging environment. I got to tell you, it's very, very challenging. You know this because you've seen it,
Yeah.
and so it's super, super important that we do that.
So yeah, I mean, but so you're the ringmaster, the the grandmaster, the orchestra leader, however you want to define it. And so, who takes care of you?
I gotta say I've learned to deal with my stress. Otherwise, I probably would have given up a long time ago. But the stress comes in cycles. Sometimes it's enormous. So here are the things that I do, and I do this almost religiously. I get up at 4:45 in the morning every morning, and I go for a walk, 3 mile walk. Depending on the time of year, I always see the beautiful sunrise, and I'll tell you, it's magical. It gets me ready for whatever is awaiting me once I get to Perkins.
Mm,
In the evening, I do the same thing and I have dinner with my family. So there are certain things: exercise, time to myself, time with my family, trying to keep my life as balanced as possible. I think that works for me. And in the past, it wasn't always like that. I would stay at Perkins until 7 or 8 p.m. at night every single night because the job never ends.
yeah.
It always continues. The job never, ever, ever stops. So I learned to disconnect at about a certain time, 5:30.
Yeah.
Between 5 and 6, I disconnect, go home, and then I take care of my own personal things, and that helps me. It's actually healthy. I've been principal there for 19 years now.
Yeah, I know. And what a run you've had. And and you're just getting going. So so um so that's your self-care formula, which of course is really important. And I know, of course, Mr. V. I know him pretty well. I mean, he has his modes of caring for his emotional health. I mean,
Yes.
you guys are really kind of the front line, kind of overview of everything that's happening at Perkins. So let's talk a little bit about the future, because that's when Chief Stainbrook and I said we're going to upgrade one of the classrooms, one of the special ed classrooms, and I thought, oh, that's really a cool thing. And then we had our Fish with a Cop program, and that was really fun. And we had 27 kids out on a boat with 27 police officers, no badges, no guns, and they caught a bunch of fish. And none of the kids had ever done that, and they hadn't been to the water, they had never been on a boat. So that was all really great. And then I sat down with Chief Steinbrook and I said, so what? Big deal. All you did was you just created a nice rocking chair memory for these children, which is a good thing. But, we're not really addressing the fundamental issues in this school, in this demographic, with food insecurity, unstable home lives, or unstable home lives, reading issues, comprehension issues, violence in the homework, in the home area. I mean, just all kinds of stuff that would curl your toes. And that's when I said, we're not going to just do things like Fish with a Cop. We have to look at the school holistically, and that's been my mantra now for the last couple of years. So everything that the San Diego Harbor Police Foundation thinks about doing or is doing or has done has the bent of it needs to be holistic. And so let's talk about the future. What can the San Diego Harbor Police Foundation do to really affect the overarching issues at Perkins?
That's a big question, Jeff. Thank you for asking that. That's a very big thing. First, I'd like to expand a little bit on all of the issues you brought up, if I may, and then please, I don't want to take up too much time,
We
but
have all day.
yeah, one of the most important things we deal with is, academic issues. That's our primary focus, bringing the kids up to speed, bringing them up to grade level. And one of the things I want everyone to know about is how much we focus on teaching reading in the public school setting. Reading is perhaps, not perhaps, it is definitely the fundamental skill that will make any student successful. And it's imperative that we teach students how to read by a certain level at the end of first grade. That's the most important benchmark. Students that leave first grade below grade level, it's very difficult for them to catch up in second grade or in later grades. If you go into any secondary school, high school, or middle school, the overwhelming majority of students that are below grade level, they ended up leaving first grade, not reading at grade level.
Yeah.
On the other hand, students that are reading at or above grade level by the end of first grade, over 95% of them will not fall behind in later grades.
Hmm.
So kindergarten and first grade are of extreme importance. And so right now with the pandemic, we've seen, we've assessed, we've tested our second, third, and fourth graders. This batch, this generation of second grade students, and I forgive me for using the word batch, that's an incorrect word. This generation of second grade students, academically, measured by their reading scores, it's the lowest we've seen in 20 years. And that's because half of kinder was done online and all of first grade was done online. So the foundation grades. So we are stressed and doing our best along with the district support. The central district has been giving us a ton of support to increase those reading levels. But 1 year is still not enough. We still have quite a few second grade students reading at a kinder level. And I could say the same about third and fourth, is those three grade levels that we're really focusing on.
Yeah.
Another thing that I want to mention, to make sure everyone hears about, is the way we talk about childhood trauma. It has an enormous effect on academic progress, childhood trauma. And for those viewers or listeners that are online right now, if they're not familiar with ACEs, I would like for them to look that up. ACEs, it stands for Adverse Childhood Experiences. It's research based. It's a study that was done by the CDC and Kaiser about 20 to 25 years ago, primarily here in San Diego. And it's a good way of measuring trauma in children. Childhood trauma can also be described as chronic stress amongst children. And the overwhelming majority of students that are below grade level have 7 or more ACEs. I know I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself, but I just think it's important to mention that. So addressing academic issues and addressing social and emotional issues, we see that they go hand in hand.
Hmm.
Um,
Right. Right.
Yeah, we see that they go hand in hand. If you help support the social emotional development of a child, they're going to do much better academically. So we're seeing a lot of that because of the pandemic. Many of the students were home, they weren't in school, and so many of the parents were home. In our community, a lot of parents work in the hospitality industry, so they were furloughed, or their restaurants or hotels shut down. They were without a job. So the
Sure.
children were exposed to much more stress at home. So we're seeing the effects of all of that at school. And the stress level amongst teachers is higher because of the fact that we're dealing with issues at a level we've never dealt with before. So,
So
yeah,
when you say issues, are you talking about anxiety, stress, anger, acting
yeah,
out?
all
Are
of those
those
things.
right?
Absolutely. It's
Right.
all of those things. And so we are teachers, we're counselors, we're therapists, we create a family environment. We're trying our best to create a family environment in each classroom. So yeah, and when you talk about supporting us, Jeff, how can the San Diego Harbor Police Foundation support Perkins? You are doing that, and it's all of these things. When the police officers come on campus, what they're doing is they're creating connections with the kids. The
Mhm.
kids need connections to as many people as possible, caring, supporting, loving connections, mentors from the community, from all around the community to come in. That's important. One of the things that is causing all of this is a huge disconnect. We're disconnected from one another.
Yeah,
We rely so much on technology, interactions with one another. Our kids don't know how to behave, and we're teaching them even how to do a simple handshake.
right.
We have to teach them how to shake hands. We cannot take any of that for granted anymore. How to carry a conversation, how to greet someone, what words express gratitude, how
Mhm.
can you act kind to another person, what's
Mhm.
kindness as opposed to being mean. All
Mhm.
of these things are things that are helping. So when you talk about supporting Perkins, I think it's a lot of things, and I don't know that I can express it all because I know we've been working on it. Number one is having tutors coming on campus and reading with our children.
Right.
And it's not it's not that the tutors are going to come and turn into one-on-one classroom teachers. That's a huge
Yeah.
expectation on a tutor.
Right.
I I wouldn't want a high school student to come in and have the pressures. I got to bring this second grader up to grade level as soon as possible. No, we'll give them the books because we know all of the students' specific reading levels. There's a readability system we use, so we have text at each student's level or right above their independent reading level that we can do. What we want tutors to do, for example, is read with the students, but have fun doing it.
Yeah. Right.
Have a
Bond,
conversation and have
establish
fun.
a connection. Yeah.
Yeah, that it's a social experience. It's not just the academic target or the academic goal of reading, but it's an entire social experience that is extremely valuable. It can't be discarded. And when it's done in person, it does wonders. The
We
tutors
have.
begin having conversations. They
Yeah.
share their own passions. They're into astronomy. They're into music. They're into planting animals. They have all these passions, and that's how this next generation of children, their curiosity springs up. I mean, there's so many ways to take this. So that's one area, Jeff. And I'll pause right there in case you have questions.
No. Yeah. Well, that's one of our programs that we started at the end of last year called Teachers Rule, RUL, for relationships, unity, and love. And I think we had a total of 53 tutors that were involved in that
Yes.
project. It was all online, but it was also a lot of administration from you and your
Yes.
staff, and it was maybe uh, too much of a burden. And then when this new school year started, we wanted to kick that program back off, but then we ran into, you were scrambling to find teachers on site. You couldn't get substitutes. And so, we've been suspended, basically waiting for things to somewhat normalize so we can, re-engage that program, because we have even more people now. We have more than 53 that are kind of waiting in the wings. And so that's been a frustration for us, because, like you've indicated, if you can't read, you can't learn. It's I don't care where you
Yes.
are in the world, what your language is, your primary, secondary, tertiary language, it doesn't matter. If you can't read, you're in big trouble. So yeah, that's certainly one program that, we're ready to relaunch. That's going to happen. And we're going to continue to build on the physical plant issues as required. But um, in San Diego County and pretty much nationally, there's this huge gap in the labor force of skilled people with skills, people that can come out of high school with a skill and walk into a job at NASCO, or walk into a job at Solar Turbines, or start a job at Qualcomm, or work at the USS Midway, or the hotels. There's just a plethora of opportunities out there for skilled labor. And in looking at the future, we have a grant submittal out right now that hopefully will be awarded to us at the end of January, first part of February. And that's going to include looking at those training of skills to those sixth, seventh, and eighth graders in particular, where not only are we going to, with the professionalism of all your staff, get their grade, their reading comprehension up, but then in addition to that, on top of the mathematics and all the other stuff that you have excellent teachers. I mean, you don't need us to help you teach. What you need us to do is to be able to support and augment, like you said, by building relationships and providing opportunities, like with our career pathways program that we're going to start hopefully about the middle of the school year, where we're taking the kids out of the classroom and introducing them to industries throughout the county that want these children to learn a skill so they can hire them and pay them really good money with or without a college education. I mean, you can get a job at NASCO and with a high school education if you have a skill, and it's $30, $40, $50 an hour. I mean, that's good money.
It is very good money.
Yeah, and those jobs are out there, but if you don't know how to read, you're not gonna you won't have a chance. You won't be able to do that. So that we're very focused on that program, and then the parents, like you and I talk about, how do we influence the children's parents? I mean, we can't go out and train them to get a job. That's not what we do, but we can certainly give them the opportunity to know what resources are out there for them at little or no cost that would help, that would benefit them in some way. Just knowing what the resources are, or learning how to balance a checkbook, or learning about, what's available education-wise for them, not just the kids. So that, not only are we elevating the children and hopefully, getting them into a career, either through higher education or, some trade, but then the parents, help them as well by example.
The parents appreciate the support. They're trying their best. I've never come across a parent that doesn't care for their children. It's just that many parents are not I can't say many, but a lot of parents aren't always able to deal with their or solve their own problems at hand at certain times, and they need our support.
Right.
I like what you're talking about, and with parents, it's teaching them. There's several things that I noticed a trend. One of them is getting them engaged in the educational process. They don't know what questions to ask, so teaching them what questions to ask about their children and what requests they need to make, and what classes they need to look out for as they transition into middle and high school as well. Teaching teaching the parents to advocate, and the kids also to advocate for themselves. That's a very important need. Give knowledge is power. Second thing is teaching the parents about how the social and emotional development of their children. Mm-hmm. It's what we talked about before, making the parents more aware. They don't know. Sometimes if parents knew these things, they might change the conditions in the home just a little bit to lessen the stress level that the children are exposed to.
Mm-hmm. Or letting them know that people care, and that, we're a resource for them.
Yes.
That most of the parents of your children, they may have heard something about what all of us are trying to do, but they don't have a contact. They wouldn't know what to do other than maybe reach out to you. And so that that we need to work on that. So part of our foundation's vision in that area is to provide maybe once a month where we invite the parents to school, we provide a meal, we provide childcare while the parents are there, because these most of these parents can't afford a babysitter, or something like that. So we provide childcare where the kids are off, on a bouncy house or whatever, make it fun for them, and then take the parents aside and really find out what their real needs are, and then help them work through those issues.
Absolutely. Jeff, on this, is would I be able to share like a couple of slides from a PowerPoint presentation?
Right now, sure.
No, or later on, you tell me, because I think there are viewers, right, that are looking at the video feed.
Oh yeah, yeah, they're a bunch. According to Yeah, no, it's live. So yeah, absolutely. If you want to throw something up, sure. I think we have somewhere around 40, 50,000 listeners. So
Okay, let me see, because
one of
I
them's
there's a couple of
Brett's
things.
telling me more.
Yeah, if you give me let me see, just a couple of minutes. Let's see. Oh, I can't share screen. I don't know how it works on this platform. It's not like Zoom. Click the screen icon in your address bar to. Oh, I see that. Okay.
Go to settings.
Did you hear that?
Yes.
Go to settings.
Settings, and I don't even know where settings in my browser.
If you're
It might
looking on
have-
the screen, it should be on the right. No?
No, I'm using actually Firefox. If not, we can continue with the conversation. That's absolutely fine. It's no big thing. I mean, I just wanted to spend a couple of minutes talking in detail about the issues I just brought up.
Sure. Yeah, just you have my attention. This show is about Perkins K8 and Fernando Hernandez. So
Okay, let's see. I'm doing something right here to see if I can make this work.
you took yourself offline.
It's okay. He can get back on.
Yeah. Can you hear me all right, Fernando? Huh? Oh, yeah. Okay. So we have a little minor technical issue here, but now he's back.
Okay, I'm good.
You snuck off on us, so I was going to tell some jokes, do a little stand-up comedy act here, but people don't realize it, but I'm actually very funny.
You have a magnificent personality.
Thank you. That's very kind of you. I have to, anymore, I have to be really, because, I'm 75 years old, so I come from a lot of generations different than a lot of people. And, I have to really be careful about what I say and when I say it and to who I say it to. It's a tricky environment. It's like back when I was in the Army, that minefield.
Minefield.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what those are.
Yes, I do.
You live in an environment of minefields.
It is. There's politics going on at work. There's stuff going on. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on. I'm not able to share the screen. Sorry. So I'm
It's
going to
okay.
give up. Yeah.
Never give up. Just find a different solution. Just figure out how to get to yes. That's all. So let's get to yes. We'll just talk it. This is, we have both here. We can talk, we can see each other. So what do you want to, what focus do you want to bring?
Yeah, what I just wanted to talk about was both. There's 10 questions. I'm going to spend just maybe about 4 or 5 minutes discussing this, but there are 10 questions on the ACEs exam.
Oh,
And you
that's
can look
good.
that up on the internet, but I'll read just maybe 3 or 4 questions. One
That's
question, for example.
ACES.
Can you hear
A-
me?
yes,
Okay. So for
ACES, ACES.
yeah, ACES,
Right.
ACES, and it stands for Adverse Childhood Experiences. ACES. And there's 10 questions. And so I'll read a few of these questions. Did your child ever see household members hurt or threaten to hurt each other? A different question is, more than once, did the child go without food, clothing, a place to live, or had no one to protect him or her? Another question, the child lived with someone who had a drinking problem or used drugs. Here's a different one. Did your child live with a household member who was depressed, mentally ill, or attempted suicide? Someone touched your child's private parts or asked your child to touch their private parts in a sexual way. So these are just some of the 10 questions on this ACE exam. So what happens if your child has 4 or more ACEs? So that means that out of these 10 questions, there were 4 responses that were positive. So a child that has 4 or more ACEs, as they grow into adulthood, their chances of developing COPD, the risk of COPD, increases by a factor of 2.5. The risk of hepatitis increases by a factor of 2.5. The risk of depression increases by a factor of 4.5. And the ideas of suicide, the risk of suicide increases by a factor of 12. That's if you have 4 or more ACEs. Now, if you have 7 or more ACEs, there are additional statistics that come into play. The risk of lung cancer increases by a factor of 3. The risk of heart disease increases by a factor of 3.5. And life expectancy is shortened by an average of 20 years. That's if you have 7 or more ACEs, meaning out of these 10 questions that were asked regarding a child, a positive response was given to at least 7 of these 10 questions. At Perkins, we have a system that's called the Student Study Team. In fact, every public school in America has something similar. At some schools, they call it RTI, meaning Response to Intervention. Some schools call it IST, the Intervention Study Team, or SST, Student Study Team. But what it is students that are not making academic progress, the teacher brings them up for a consultation with multiple staff members, including the counselor, school psychologist, special ed staff, principal, parents, in order to discuss positives and areas of concern. What we discovered at Person is that over the last couple of years, beginning the 7 or 8 months before the pandemic, that school year before the pandemic, we discovered that every single student at Perkins, 100% of them that were brought up to the SST by their classroom teachers, they all had 7 or more ACEs. And we were shocked. As a staff, we were devastated. We had an idea. Here we're bringing these students up to an SST to implement a plan, and like, what are we going to do to help the student catch up in reading? Or let's come up with a short-term goals to help the student become a better mathematician. And when we discovered that they had 7 or more ACEs, every single one of them, it was a huge, it was a very emotional experience for all of us in these meetings.
Devastating.
Yeah, it was devastating. Here we are discovering that our students are suffering from childhood trauma, chronic stress, just major trauma. And we are rightfully, our job is to teach them reading, writing, and math. That is
Right.
our job. But the big disconnect is we were not prepared as a school community to deal with the social and emotional needs of the school. We talk about hiring more counselors and more nurses on staff, but this went much, much deeper.
Yeah.
Every teacher at school had to become an around ACEs. What are ACEs?
Mhm.
First thing that happens is when you understand childhood trauma, your perception changes. I'll give you one example. I had a young lady that kept misbehaving at school. Fifth grade student kept misbehaving coming into the office. As a principal, gave her detention, in school suspension, suspended at home. This type of punitive measures isn't always effective. In the majority of cases, it is not effective.
Right.
What I discovered about this young lady who was gate identified, she had 9 aces. Out of
Oh.
these 10 questions, 9 aces. And she's
And
gate
she's a gate kid
Yeah, gate.
identified. Yes.
Yeah,
Well, that means high,
yeah,
high intellect, high, high, high potential.
yes, exactly. And so with 9 aces, she's not able. We learned how to look at all of these uh, behaviors that we used to consider, oh, that's ADD. Oh,
Right.
this kid is just misbehaving badly. Oh, someone needs to talk to this kid. No, it changed our perception. And so our interventions became a little bit differently. So the first thing this does is it changes the way you perceive your students, and that's just part of the steps. We implemented a lot of different steps, but the first thing you have to do is become very familiar with ACEs. And I so wish I could share the screen with you, but I hope that my oral or verbal description suffices in this environment, in this online environment right now.
Yeah. No. And I have seen the slides and listened to you talk about ACEs a number of times, and each time I hear those statistics on how what appear to be unrelated illnesses down the road are brought about as a result of their current environment today. So 20, 30, 40 years from now, they're still going to have diabetes, and it was probably exacerbated or brought on by these ACEs. So the my first question is, what do you do with that? I mean, you're a school teacher. You're, like you said, your job is to teach reading, writing, and math. And for the most part, most of your staff are not trained specifically on how to deal with these deep seated emotional psychological issues.
So ask your question again, please.
So you and your staff are you're professional teachers. That's what you do,
Yes.
and you're all very good at that. But you're not counselors, you're not psychologists, you're not psychiatrists that are specifically trained on this. Is a long-term issue for a child who has, like you say, a 9 score in ACEs, or a 7, or even a 5 or a 6. What a challenge that is. I mean, how do you get that child back down below that 4 level?
Oh, there's hope. By the way, I want to tell you, just the fact that I'm giving you these statistics does not mean that they're doomed. So I have to add another story. By the way, as we're talking, I'm doing something different. I'm messing around with the buttons, and I'm uploading the PowerPoint right now to see if I can show some of these slides. So
Right.
let me expand on this. In our community, this young lady who has 9 aces, she goes home and no one is home to help her process these traumatic events that have occurred in her life, because her mom is doing her best to provide for the family. She works every evening until midnight. So
Yeah.
this young lady's alone. These issues that I mentioned also exist in middle income and higher income families. So
Of
they
course.
exist in our society. The difference being that a child from a middle income family, they have the support of a grandparent, maybe another, or some a therapist, a counselor,
Right.
mental health clinician, somebody that can help the child process these events, make meaning, um, implement interventions, and help the student heal and on their way. That
Oh,
does not happen at
that's
school.
I see the slide.
Oh,
That's
you do?
yeah. Do you see it, Sarah? Oh, there it is.
Oh,
Yeah.
you can
Yeah.
see it?
Yes.
Okay, let me see how this works. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's important that the audience sees this. In 2014, about 3% of all students at Perkins, which is in Barrio Logan here in San Diego, in the Barrio Logan neighborhood, they were homeless. And in the span of 5 years, that number had grown to almost 40% of all students. So from 3% to 40%, we went through a demographic earthquake in our community.
Right.
Yeah, that's important. And I was talking about this just a while ago, where one of the first academic benchmarks comes at first grade. If students exit first grade at or above, the overwhelming majority will not fall behind as they grow older. On the other hand, students who exit first grade below grade level will have a very difficult time catching up in later grades.
We're going to need to move along into the ACEs portion.
Here, let me continue on. Let me skip over some of these slides, and here we go.
There you go.
So here's what I was talking about. The Adverse Childhood Experiences Test. I'm reading the area in white. There are 10 questions on this test. Its implications are profound indeed. Understanding this helps us understand what prevents many students from reaching academic goals. And here are the 10 questions.
Yeah.
I've read 5 of them previously.
Yeah, that's good. I think since everyone heard that, maybe if we can focus on the modalities that you're now using to address this ACEs
Definitely.
issue.
Here, yeah, and here I just want to spend maybe about 10 or 20 more seconds talking about the ACE scores. If you have 4
Sure.
or more,
Yep.
you see this. And I just included a picture of this magnificent book called The Deepest Well, which was written by Nadine Burke Harris. She's an MD and she's California's first Surgeon General. And it's her mission to train all doctors in California, all doctors and nurses, to recognize trauma in children. I believe that teachers also need to be educated. All educators in all schools, principals and teachers, they also need to know about ACEs. And so we've done that at Perkins. This next slide shows
us about eyes and ears. So
yeah, we're the first line of defense.
You are.
Yeah. So this is it. So and here's where we discovered that every student that was brought up to the SSD process had an ACE score of 7 or higher. And the way we did this is at every meeting we asked the parents permission. Mom or dad, I'd like to ask you a series of questions, and only with your permission. You don't have to answer if you're not comfortable. And that's how I would start the conversation. But every parent always said, yes, yeah, go ahead. And we had a wonderful conversation about that. So here's where I was at in my discussion. These high ACE scores mean that the long-term health outcomes of our students are very bleak. We were very concerned about short-term academic goals. Now, we are also concerned with long-term outcomes. Students are resilient. They are hard workers. Parents absolutely want the best for their children. And we have implemented a series of social and emotional interventions. So those interventions are on a different slide deck that are not on this one. Let me just continue on. And here's the student I was referring to just a little while ago. In this slide, I changed her name and I called her Jessica. She's in the 6th grade. Well, she's now in 7th. She is a real student. She is gate identified. She has an ACE score of 9. Yeah, she has 9 ACEs. Remember those statistics of people with high ACE scores?
Yeah.
That is the enormous gap that we are trying to overcome. Mom is working all evening, every day. And what we know about Jessica is she must be surrounded by caring, loving, kind, and trusting people in school on a long-term basis. Knowing that she has a high A score gives you the ability to be empathetic and sensitive to her needs. That's what we're looking at. She needs to connect. Jessica needs to dream. She needs to talk to people who can show her the way. She needs mentors and role models. She needs to feel valued, loved, and supported. And that's the key right there. She needs to feel valued, loved, and supported.
Yeah.
This is the medicine. This is part of it. This is not all of it. There is no silver bullet, but this knowledge begins, it helps you plan out interventions.
Well, it changed the entire learning dynamic.
Yes, it
Because
does.
no longer are you teaching mathematics, simple math, reading comprehension, history, geography, or anything else. You're becoming a part of the whole bonding that this child needs in order to be successful and hopefully eradicate or at least mitigate some of those ACEs scores, even though the events themselves that created those ACE scores may not go away. I mean, the alcoholism might continue, and perhaps the violence in the home life might continue. But you're giving this child an option. You're giving them a roadmap of a way out of this high ACEs score environment.
That is correct. The fact that they have high A scores, it does not mean they're doomed. Not in the least bit. No, you're absolutely right. We just have to double down in creating a loving environment at school. You've got to feel it, and we have to create it. And there's steps in doing that. Another thing that we implemented right before the pandemic was something called zones of regulation, where we teach students, every student at Perkins from kinder all the way up through 8th grade, they learned how to identify their emotional state at any given point during the day using a system of 4 colors. I think we've talked about that. And the 4 colors are blue. If I'm in the blue zone, it means I'm bored, tired, or sad. If I'm in the yellow zone, it means I'm frustrated. I'm anxious, I'm nervous, I'm scared. If I'm in the red zone, I'm escalated, I'm enraged, I'm super angry. And where all of our students need to be in order for learning to occur in the classroom, they all need to be in the green zone. So we spent a few months teaching everyone to self-identify. And then once we could self-identify, and we made some incredible discoveries. After recess, sometimes when the kids would come into the classroom, only a third were in the green zone.
Yeah.
Notice that there was maybe drama going on the playground, and they would come in the yellow zone or in the blue zone. So our teachers had to take action in the classroom before the lesson, the academic lesson, to try to get as many students into the green zone. So it not only worked on our students, it worked on us. I know that if I'm home and I'm in the red zone, I'm not going to have a conversation with my wife. It won't go very nicely.
No, and you would lose. Right?
I would lose, definitely. So you understand that was another thing, and we gave our students a lot of power to manage and self-regulate their emotions. They knew, okay, I'm in the yellow zone. I now know what to do to get myself into the green zone in the next 10 or 15 or 20 minutes. And we were pretty successful with that. Our referrals diminished by 40% after we implemented this system at school.
That's magnificent.
Yeah. So that's just part of it. There's more, but let me pause right there, Jeff, and let me ask you to direct me in our conversation.
Yeah. So we're out of time. So because I have to pay an extra $1,000 for another 2 minutes. No, I'm kidding. That's a joke. No, that's not true at all. But I am going to wind it down here, and I would love to invite you to come back, maybe in 60 days or so, when we've implemented more of our programs from the San Diego Harbor Police Foundation, in collaboration with you at Perkins K-8 school. And then, so we can kind of track our progress. I mean, because this is not a one-stop shop. Obviously, we all have multiple things to do here to get Perkins K-8 school back to where you want it to be, which is like with your second, third, and fourth graders. Let's get their reading comprehension rates back up into the 80s or low 90s, so that they can matriculate on into the next grade with confidence. So if that's okay with you, that's where I'd like us to go.
It would be my pleasure. If you give me 30 more seconds, I would just like to end by asking everyone to please watch this video on your own time. And I hope I'm spelling this correctly. At staff meetings at Perkins, every one of the meetings with staff, with teachers, and with parents, and with students, there has to be an inspirational message, either a quote or a video. And I want to end by asking all of you to see this one. Everyone has a story. If you type that into YouTube, it's a video by Chick-fil-A. It's not a commercial. I believe it's a video they used to train internally, a training video for
Yeah.
customer service. You've seen that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I would recommend that our audience go on YouTube at one point and look at that. It's
say
humanity.
the name of the video again?
It's Everyone Has a Story,
Okay.
and it's just the humanity of our work. I've shared this with our parents and with our teachers, and I have many videos that I share to inspire people, but this is a good one. It's a 3-minute video. Jeff, thank you so much for today.
Well, you're more than welcome. It's such a I'm humbled just to even know you. I mean, the work that you do for all of those 423 students at Perkins K-8 is it's inspirational on many levels. And so thank you very much for being on my show, The Greater Good. I want to thank my sponsors, the San Diego Harbor Police Foundation, for allowing me to put this show on. I want to thank producer Sarah from IQ Podcasts, and Brett Davis from IQ Podcasts, and all the wonderful people that support this programming. And if people like this show, please feel free to like it on IQ Podcasts or YouTube or whatever your platform is for watching podcasts, so that we get the word out, so that we can get even more support for Principal Fernando Hernandez, who, by the way, speaks fluent Russian, which is very useful in San Diego. I'm sure that every morning you're saying "niet" or something along those lines. I don't speak Russian, but
we have families from Russia attending Perkins, so
that's wonderful. So Merry Christmas to you, Fernando, and your family. And I look forward to seeing you in the new year. Wish you all the best, and thank you for being on The Greater Good.
Merry Christmas to you, Jeff, and to everyone else on the show. Thank you so much for allowing me to speak. Have a wonderful day, a wonderful holidays, and I'll see you soon.
Thank you.